pain, it sucks. It sucks to be in chronic pain. It sucks to be not able to do like things that maybe like me, I used to be able to drive like hours and hours. Now I can barely drive like 10 minutes some days. But I'm able to use the blessing of being able to get rides with people and talk with them in the car ride, talk with them and be able to pour into them and then pour into me. There's so many blessings whenever you look at it from the perspective of like not why me, not why is this happening to me, but why is this what is this doing for me? All right. So, okay, first for the recording, Shante, there is a pre-recorded intro. I should have said this before, but there's a pre-recorded intro, and so I'm just going to dive into introducing you, and then I'll ask you a question, and we'll go from there. All right. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Pursuit of Calling podcast. Today's guest is someone who carries a message of hope, identity, and purpose that I believe will speak directly to your heart. I'm joined today by Shante Dixon, a first-generation college graduate, coach, and the founder of the Poor Print Framework. After being told she was born too poor to attend the college of her dreams, she turned that painful moment into the foundation of a life assignment, pouring into people who have been overlooked, underestimated, or placed in boxes by society. Her journey from discouragement to purpose is powerful. And for those of you living with chronic pain or navigating long-term challenges, Shante's message will remind you that your circumstances do not disqualify your calling. They can actually deepen it. We're going to be talking about identity, mindset, purpose, hope, and how to pursue your calling even when life feels heavy. I believe this conversation is going to be truly transformational, so let's dive in. Shante, again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Thomas. I am excited and honored to be here.
For sure. And for those who don't know you, Shante, how would you tell people who Shante Dixon is?
Well, first, Shante Dixon is a child of God. That is the title that I take great pride in. Like you mentioned, I'm a first generation college student who went on to have a 30 plus year as an adult probation officer here in the largest court in the state of Ohio. And that is actually where my assignment was honed in on and actually defined through the clients that I serve, who were the ones that society deemed to be the worst. And it was my assignment and my gift, per se, from God to find the best in the worst. Because a lot of my clients, their story mirrored mine in so many ways. Always wanted to go to college. That was never up for discussion. Being a first generation college student born to a single mom, I was fortunate to have my grandmother and my great grandmother for the majority of my life, and they always pushed me to that direction. So as I'm preparing to go to college, I meet with a counselor to finalize things and had this dream school that I wanted to go to, not knowing as a kid that financially it was supposed to be out of my reach. But we know God has the final say in everything.
Yep.
And that counselor's words and his frustration as I indicated to him where I wanted to go and what my plans were that unfortunately you're born too poor to attend a college of that stature. But again, he was right. When you look at statistics and you look at the generational things that went on in my family, I was not supposed to be going to college. But he was right but wrong. I was actually born too poor, and my life has been taking on that assignment ever since. And God gave me the acronym for POUR, which is helping individuals live purposeful, outstanding, unique, and relevant in every area in their lives. So that's what I've been called to do, and I'm grateful that God chose me to do so.
Yeah. And again, I said this in the pre-interview, but I love how you took that experience of being told that you were born too poor to attend that college and turned it on its head. So to turning the and changing the word from poor Poor to poor Pour, and creating the framework around it. Then now you can help others find the best in themselves, the ones that you said society deems the worst. So for the audience of this podcast, for people who feel limited by their circumstances, especially those battling chronic pain, how can they begin to see their life through that same lens of purpose?
Well, what pain does, it can paralyze you if you let it.
Mm.
But pain does not erase or disqualify you from your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Pain actually takes on a distillation process. It breaks you down to the purest form. I have witnessed in my lifetime, within the last 10 years, actually, three very strong men who have dealt with serious chronic pain. Two of them were with ALS, and the
Mm-hmm.
other was colon cancer. So I have seen how pain can really get a hold of your spirit. But in them, I would definitely say they remained purposeful, outstanding, unique, and relevant in their lives, because there's a mindset um, when it comes to dealing with something like that, and you have to shift, because you're definitely going to have some very bad days. So let's be honest. You're going to It's a very human thing to experience this pain, but it does
Mm-hmm.
not disqualify your purpose. It
Mm-hmm.
actually clarifies it. It shows
Yeah.
you what you're made of. And sometimes on your worst day, you could become better by helping someone else become better and get through it. So it might feel very purposeful, very personal as you're going through this pain, but in reality, it's very purposeful. If you
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying, Thomas.
Yeah.
So um, we see it all throughout Scripture that God has used people at their lowest point to make great strides in history.
Yeah. And I do like what you said. Pain can clarify your purpose, because I know in my life what it's done is it kind of trimmed off what was possible.
Mm,
It trimmed. I shouldn't say what was possible. What I was capable of doing physically. It trimmed, like I'm a full time web and app developer. I'm on the computer all day. I love playing video games, but I don't play video games right now because like I don't have the capacity to do that and have a full time job and pursue the calling that God's put on my life. So it's caused me to focus on the calling, focus on the priorities. It's helped me prioritize. And like you said, I think you probably heard it before, but clarity is kindness.
yes, it is.
Clarity. I think that's one thing for me. I've said this before in this podcast that I believe God's a good God, and I'm not healed from my condition, even though I've been prayed over hundreds of times. So what does that mean? It means I believe God's helping me get clarity on the calling He's put on me, and I don't believe He did this to me, but I believe He's leaving me here for a very specific reason. And but for those who feel like their pain does disqualify them, it feels like life kind of counts them out, because the world isn't really built for people with chronic conditions. It's kind of it's like there's some things we can do, but they're not always easily accessible. So like or like they don't always come to the forefront of our mind. So from your poor framework through that, how can they see themselves from being disqualified to actually qualified for their calling?
Well, you can see yourself as, I like what you said. You can't do the things that you used to be able to do with the
Mm-hmm.
frequency that you used to be able to do them. So it kind of, actually, the pain pointed you more in the direction of your purpose.
Mm.
So it sounds like you're very productive in doing what you were actually called to do. So as you do that, also, what I hear you saying is you become more resilient because you have had to figure out things because, like you said, it's not built. This world is not built for
Mhm.
people in these circumstances. So you've become more present. And I want individuals to know dealing with chronic pain that your presence is a present
Mhm.
to this world. It's a gift. It's a reflection of how you show up, being human and being purposeful. For some on that particular day, just the very fact that you were able to get up and get out of bed and just go about your day as best you could, that's purposeful. Sometimes we think purpose is such a grand thing, but it's just being present in the moment and doing the best you can with what you can for that particular day. And sometimes you kind of have to shift. Um, I've seen individuals practice what I kind of call premature gratitude.
Mm.
That's speaking things as though they are, as you
Mm.
say.
Yeah.
Premature gratitude, thanking God it's going to be a good day. So my good day might not look like your good day, but
Yeah.
for you, you're going to decide it's going to be a good day with given the circumstances that I have. So my circumstances won't be my boundary because a lot of times I watched one of my closest friends deal with ALS,
Mhm.
and it's that's a very debilitating disease.
Yeah.
And I watched him as long as he could speak verbally, you know, still thank God and say, don't feel sorry for me. God's still been good to me. And then as he could not speak, we had these nonverbal cues that we would use. And
Mhm.
still remembering God's been good to me, you know.
Mhm.
So he was practicing that premature gratitude, even though he was well aware of what his situation was. So it's a it's a push. It's a push that you have to push your way through and just say I'm not going to allow pain to pause my purpose. It's going to push me towards my purpose. And then when I think about my framework, like the poor framework, again, purposeful, outstanding, unique, and relevant. Outstanding is not, like I said, just about so much how tall you stand. It's just the fact that you're standing
Mhm.
in the midst of everything that's going on. You're choosing character when you don't even feel strong at times.
Mm.
At your weakest points, you continue to dream when life or your diagnosis may push you to settle, but you continue to have these dreams because as long as we still have breath in our body, God has purpose for us.
Mhm.
It does not make us less outstanding. It just
Yeah.
more reveals how outstanding we are and what we can be in this world and make an impact in the kingdom.
Yeah.
My mom always said to us as children, it's not about what you go through as much it is as it is about how you go through it.
Mm.
Because really the
Yeah.
only way out is through.
Yeah.
So, and then we've talked about being purposeful, talked about being outstanding, also being unique
Mm. Yeah.
and realizing that your uniqueness is like your superpower.
Yeah.
There's only one Thomas. That's that's the Thomas that you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what you may think disqualifies you is the very thing that God intends to use to distinguish you and set you apart. And you're doing that in this space right here, which is reaching individuals and it's going to help somebody. So pain actually gives you a perspective, if you understand what I mean. It puts you on the path only where your calling makes sense.
Mm.
It's only where your call. It's a custom route, sort of say.
Yeah.
Pain takes you to a custom route just for you. So it's the positive, finding the positive in the negative, finding the
Mhm.
best on the worst days.
Right.
And it doesn't like I said, let's not sugarcoat it. Pain is painful, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
pain sucks.
So it does. So it's very okay to be very human about that. So let's just be honest. And to show up, let's move on to being relevant. We've talked about being purposeful, outstanding, unique, and relevant. It is staying aligned with the world that's changing around you and staying aligned with your values. And so I like to think of alignment as, one of my mentors described alignment as what you say, what you do, and what you believe are all in agreement.
Integrity.
Integrity. So it could be staying relevant, could be just having a single conversation that could change someone's life, even
Yeah.
in the midst of the storm. It could be a post, it could be the podcast you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we know that Jesus changed the world with just 12 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
David, he led a nation with just 5 stones. Let's not forget Gideon, who saved Israel with 300. God
Mm-hmm.
has always done the most with the least in the
Mm-hmm.
least circumstances. So while you're thinking your pain disqualifies you, it qualifies you on a whole new level.
Yeah. I think from my perspective and from what I've learned, well, first, what pops into my head is I believe it's in the book of Corinthians where Paul talks about um, how trials produce endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Another thing we talked about during the pre-interview is how the pain of whether it's chronic pain or it's like maybe you're sick, or maybe you're just dealing with a external circumstance that's outside of your control. It feels like a curse.
Mm,
It doesn't feel like a blessing. It doesn't feel like it's possible to be blessed through that situation. But the thing is, like you said before, God uses our circumstances in order to help us define the purpose that He has put on our lives, help us understand the purpose that's already been defined.
mm.
And hmm,
Because if you think about it, and we know God to be God, He already knew this was coming.
yeah, yeah, right,
He
yeah,
he he already knew that this pain, this diagnosis was coming. So if he already knew that it was coming, he already knew that we could handle it. But it's
yeah,
not always, we can't always handle it alone. That's where I think some individuals kind of sell themselves a little short when they try to go through in isolation. There's
hmm,
really power in your circle, your environment, and your
yeah,
community, especially when you're going through something um, that's as relates to chronic pain or illness.
yeah. It's I was saying before that chronic pain can feel like a curse, but you mentioned the community we have around us, and I talked about that a lot on this podcast in the past. That I believe it's like through my church, through aligning myself with God, I not only do I have God in my corner, I have the people that He's put around me, and I have friends that pray for me. I have people I probably don't even know praying for
Mhm.
me, and I believe in the power of prayer. I don't know what those prayers are doing. I know, but I know they're doing something. If that makes sense,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
because people pray for healing, but it might not be the healing I'm looking for.
Mm.
I've had to heal from wondering like, God, why me, and using my condition as a crutch, and using it as using it to, like you said, sell myself short, to be like, no, I can't do that because of my condition, or it's people, or people being able to not doing something or failing at certain things, and people being like, well, that's understandable because you have this condition that, or you have this circumstance that makes sense. I'm like, I don't want to make sense. Like the purpose, our calling shouldn't really. This is just coming off the cuff, but our calling shouldn't make sense. Like it should make sense to us as we follow on the calling, but it shouldn't make sense from the external. It'd be like that person, like me in my circumstance with chronic pain, I know I can achieve more than I can think or imagine because that's what God calls me to do. And our pain, it sucks. It sucks to be in chronic pain. It sucks to be not able to do like things that maybe like me I used to be able to drive like hours and hours. Now I can barely drive like 10 minutes some days. But I'm able to use the blessing of being able to get rides with people and talk with them in the car ride, talk with them and be able to pour into them and then pour into me. There's so many blessings whenever you look at it from the perspective of like not why me, not why is this happening to me, but why is this how what is this doing for me?
Right, exactly. Exactly. I definitely agree with that. I've been in some situations where, because I'm gonna just be honest, I try
Yeah,
to pass the test because I don't want to go through the test again.
yeah,
So it goes back to what I said. My mom, it's not about what you go through, but it's how you go through it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
trying to get the lesson in the midst is very important. What am I supposed to get out of this? What am
Mm-hmm.
I supposed to give from this situation?
Yeah.
Because again, we why it is personal and it feels extremely personal, it still
Mm-hmm.
is purposeful. So
Yeah.
Lord, what do you want me to do with what you've given me to go through? How you've given me to go through, and how can I help somebody else? Because a lot of times, even growing up in some of the city's most underserved neighborhoods, we had what we needed because I had a mom who was going to make a way out of no way. You know,
Mm.
as they say, who could turn a dollar, turn 15 cents into a dollar. So she was
Hmm.
going to make a way. But even in that, we still were raised that somebody else is always worse off than you. So
Mm. Yeah.
you still give. And when you give, it's still a blessing to be a blessing.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that's very important when you go through stuff, is to kind of step back and look at how is this going to be used to help someone else, even in your darkest places. I My pastor who dealt with colon cancer, and that was very rough to see.
Mm-hmm.
um and one of the last messages that he preached that I'll never forget is that you could be bitter or you could be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that gave him strength in going through that very tough storm of dealing with colon cancer. You could be bitter or you could be better. It's a decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to remember, you can even say, God, I don't like this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand it. But the blessing is that I'm still here.
Mm.
I'm still
Yeah.
here. And I would encourage anybody who's dealing with anything on a physical level of pain, on
Mm-hmm.
an emotional level of pain, on a mental level of pain, is to honor whatever you're going through. You can honor that anger instead of hiding it.
Yeah.
Be honest, be real, talk to God about it. And
Mm-hmm.
also, I would encourage them to separate the diagnosis from their identity. So a lot of times I've seen people go through situations, let's just say pain. Oh, that's so and so with cancer. No, that's a mother. That's a father. That's a
Yeah.
friend. That's a fighter. That's
Yeah.
a believer. That's a
Mm.
witness.
Yeah.
So I would encourage them to separate the diagnosis from their identity.
For sure.
Choose connection. I spoke about that. Choosing connection over isolation is very
Mm-hmm.
important.
Yeah.
I know I've been in some tough situations. And another thing that my pastor, he was a comedian, so he thought, but he really was. And laughter really is a medicine.
Mm. Yeah.
Laughter really, I don't know if you've ever done this, been in had a down day or just put on something funny, even if it's temporary,
Mm-hmm.
it really medicates you and gets your mind off of what's really going on. And like
Mm-hmm.
I said, give yourself permission to be human.
Yeah. I wanted to say before you said I'm still you like acknowledge that you're still here. And I love the phrase if I'm still here, God's not done.
Yes, yes.
And like if you're still here, if you're listening to this episode right now, God's not done with you
He's
yet.
not done. He's not
God,
done.
God's got like he's got a calling in your life. You're not disqualified. You have the ability to be purposeful, outstanding, unique, and relevant.
Yes,
And yeah, like I want you to listen to this episode and actually understand what that means because you're not just a like she just said, you're not a person who's just in chronic pain. I used to be like that was my identity for a while. I understand. Like sometimes you're like, I this is me. This is who I am now. It's like no, yes, that's just a circumstance. Your circumstances don't define your calling. Like she said, it can amplify it. And as long, but you have to let it happen. You have to lean into the blessing.
exactly.
You have to look at you can't look at it as a um like I did as a curse. And it's really easy to do that. It's really easy to be like, man, this my life sucks, and I'm never going to be able to do anything because of this circumstance. But understand that God uses all things for the good of the kingdom. Does nothing's wasted. So, guys, I want to. I'm going to start wrapping up this episode, but I want to, guys, I want you guys to go through those four things. Those four things: purposeful, outstanding, unique, and relevant. And I want you to write down areas how you can be doing that in your life. How can you be purposeful? How can you be outstanding? How are you unique? And how can you be relevant? How can you align what you're saying with what you're doing?
And
How
what
can
you're
you make
believing.
sure and in what you're believing and make sure that you have integrity in those areas of your life. But Shante, I have a few wrap up questions I ask every guest for um, what would be some of the top resources, or I should say the number one top resource that you typically recommend to people, whether that be a book, a podcast, or even a person. What would you typically recommend to people?
I would recommend, well, the book of Proverbs is just one of my favorite
Mm-hmm.
books in the Bible about
Yeah.
life application. That's one of my favorite things. But my mentor and coach, Dr. Darius Daniels, wrote a book, In Pursuit of Calling, which is an excellent resource, and it outlines and directs you to remember that everybody has this uniqueness about them
Mm-hmm.
and they have purpose in the earth to do what they were created to do.
Mm-hmm.
And just in line with this conversation, you're still created to do something.
Yeah.
Even in pain, you may have to pivot how
Yep.
you do that. And there's
Mm-hmm.
power in the pivot.
Yeah.
You may have to pivot how you do that, but you were still uniquely designed for a purpose
Mm-hmm.
in this earth. So I would encourage people to um, to really remember that.
Yeah.
And
Awesome. Thank you
go
for
ahead.
those. I think trying to remember Hazel. She also like she recommended Dr. Darius as well. So
Yes.
I have I want to read one of his books before I reach out. But yeah, I appreciate. But because she recommended him as for the next question. But next question is, who do you know that I should know? Who is somebody that you would recommend for the podcast? Somebody that would be a great connection for me to have.
I was gonna say Hazel. I was gonna say Coach Hazel. Definitely Dr. Darius would be an awesome individual to have on your podcast, and that would be an awesome individual to have on your podcast if you could make that happen.
For sure. No, I don't assume a no. I know he like is yeah, he has a larger platform, way larger platform. I know
Yes.
he's but yeah, I would be blessed to have him on. I listened to a couple of his messages, but and then how can people find out more about you?
So I can be reached on Instagram at the Poor Coach,
Hmm?
and my website is born2poor.com. And if you would like to email me, you could email me at info@born2poor.com. I'm looking forward to starting off 2026 with some great topics. One of the topics will be what about your friends? The relationship audit you did not know you needed. Because we know relationships are one of the number one contributors to our success in life. So, who you surround yourself with is very important, and who you keep in your environment and in your circle. Um, it's great to build with people who build
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
So, we're going to really tackle that whole relational intelligence piece,
Yeah.
and do some workshops around that. Also around boundaries,
Yeah.
boundaries, and changing some of these patterns that keep us stuck. So you can
Awesome.
look for that pretty soon through the
Yeah.
information I just provided.
For sure. And we got the borntopoor.com. We got Instagram at the poor coach. And then email if you want to email her, she said info at born to coach or borntopoor.com.
Yes.
Uh, but yeah, guys, thank you again. Well, thank you, Shante, for joining us. Your message, your framework is great, and I really enjoyed this conversation. Um,
Me too, Thomas. Thank you. I appreciate, we've had some little hiccups with scheduling and
yeah,
technical difficulty, but all will be well. And I pray God's continued blessings and favor on your life. And I applaud the work that you're doing in this space. That's a very unique population that you're reaching, but even reaching that population, it reaches others. So just, stay encouraged and continue blessings upon you.
I appreciate that. I really do. For everyone that is listening to to this episode, thank you. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it out on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever social media platform that you're on, and whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review. And if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcast, go ahead and leave a review. That really helps the algorithm and also lets me know if I'm doing good or not. So, guys, thank you again, and keep pursuing your calling. All right, guys. I'll see you next time.